Okay, boys, just moving on to chapter 9 now, determining profit and loss. Now, there is a little bit in this chapter, some of the stuff that if you've done unit 1, you'll be well, sort of all over, but yeah, there are a few things that change a little bit. So, really important that we have a really good crack at this chapter because it'll sort of set us up um, for later on down the track. So look, determining profit or loss, it is the most basic function of a small business to earn a profit for the owner. That's basically the core function of a business. Now the way we calculate profit or loss is we take all our revenues away from our we take all our expenses away from our revenues, and whatever's left over is the increase in the owner's equity. So look, I often get asked, "Oh, are we going to need to know the definitions?" Look, it's pretty unlikely that you're going to get asked to define a revenue, but what you are going to need to do is you are going to need to know what a revenue is so that you can determine whether or not an item is a revenue item or whether it is just an inflow of cash. So revenues can be defined as an inflow of economic benefit or a saving of outflows in the form of increased assets, reduction in liabilities that increases our owner's equity. Okay, so really important that we nail this and that we totally understand what a revenue is. An expense is the exact opposite. So it can be defined as an outflow or consumption of economic benefit in the form of a decrease of asset or increase in liability that will decrease our owner's equity. Okay, so the key thing here is that it affects our owner's equity. Some critical things to remember here, boys, is that capital contributions and drawings are not included. So any capital contributions or drawings are not seen as revenues or expenses, therefore are not included in the income statement. So basically, any other item that affects or that impacts owner's equity will be included in the income statement. Now, for the guys who didn't do accounting 1 and 2, the income statement is the statement that we use to determine our profit and loss, a profit or loss. Now, the key accounting principles and qualitative characteristics that come up time and time again when we're talking about income statements or determining profit or loss there are a couple that work in tandem. We've got the going concern principle and we've got the reporting period principle. So basically, the going concern principle assumes that the life of the business is continuous. So if we to follow that principle alone, it means that the profit would never be determined. So that's why we use the reporting period, or that's why the reporting period is so important. Okay, because it allows us to divide the life of the business into periods in order to determine profit. So always remember, okay, pretty key point here. Remember, a balance sheet is a point in time, which is why we write as at on a balance sheet. So on a particular day, a balance sheet will show the position of the business. Now, an income statement shows the performance of a business over a period. Okay, so what we're talking about here is we've got we show profit over a period of time, whether it be a month or 12 months or a quarter or what have you. whereas a balance sheet will show you the position of a business at a point in time. So tomorrow, the business's balance sheet may well be different to today. So reporting periods are basically up to the owner to decide. So the owner decides how often they want the profit determined. So it may be every month, maybe seasonal. It might be quarterly, that sort of thing. Okay, so once this reporting period is determined, it's really important that the calculation of the profit only includes the revenues and expenses for that particular period. So unlike a balance sheet where everything in the past that has happened with that asset or liability is included, with an income statement, only the revenue or expenses for that particular period are included. So this means that we obviously cover off our qualitative characteristic of relevance, obviously because only the items only the items contributing to the profit of this particular period are useful for decision making. Okay, and as it says here, if we included other items other than revenue and expenses, or included revenue and expenses from outside the current period, the information wouldn't be useful for decision making because it'd be distorted. Okay, boys, if we can knock over these review questions, 9.1, and then I might do some board work, I think.